Здравствуйте! В эфире Forbes Education и я, Юлия Черепанова. Сегодня мы продолжаем серию эфиров, посвященных творческому образованию в России и за рубежом, и поговорим о Соединенных Штатах Америки. Вместе с гостями мы обсудим, как выбрать штат, университет, программу, чего ожидать от обучения и какие перспективы открываются перед выпускниками творческих направлений. В конце нашего мероприятия вас ждет мастер-класс, на котором вы узнаете, как подготовиться к прослушиваниям на вокальные, актерские и хореографические программы. Часть нашего общения будет проходить на русском, часть на английском языке. Любые вопросы спикерам вы можете оставлять в комментариях к трансляции, мы ответим на них во второй половине нашего эфира. И наш первый гость Катя Федорова, креативный консультант, журналист, основатель телеграм-канала Good Morning, Karl и выпускница одной из самых престижных американских дизайн-школ Parsons School of Design. Катя, здравствуйте.
Юля, привет, спасибо, что позвали.
Катя, давайте начнем с очевидного вопроса. Насколько вам помогло ваше американское образование и обучение в Parsons в карьере?
Помогло очень сильно. У меня до этого, до Parsons, я училась в другом американском университете. Parsons — мое второе образование. Училась в Бостонском университете на менеджмент, маркетинг-менеджмент. И, конечно, мне это дико помогло, даже не столько, сколько в плане знаний, да, потому что знания, я считаю, в наши дни можно и в Гугле получить. А в плане того, что ты живешь один совершенно в другом мире, совершенно новым для тебя, и тебя окружают люди с разных стран, с разными мнениями, с разными идеями, ты стажируешься, опять же, в каких-то самых лучших, я в Parsons в Нью-Йорке, и Нью-Йорк — это все-таки одна из модных столиц, поэтому у меня была возможность постажироваться в дико крутых компаниях, и к нам в университет, например, приходили тоже спикеры из индустрии, потому что большинство преподавателей Parsons — это практикующие профессионалы, которые действительно там работают в пиаре, в байинге и т.д. То есть они звали своих друзей, к нам приходила в университеты Глenda Бейли, главред Harper's Bazaar, Тори Берридж, дизайнер, куча известных людей, которых, конечно, нигде бы я больше не послушала.
А насколько сложно было поступить в Parsons?
Ой, на самом деле там немного запутанная история с моим поступлением, потому что я очень хотела на дизайн, очень хотела на фэшн-дизайн, на котором я потом училась, но, причем хотела я этого с детства. Но мне все время родители говорили, что надо получить какую-то профессию серьезную, что вот надо идти учить бизнес, финансы, все дела. Поэтому, отучившись, собственно, на бизнесе и финансах, я решила все-таки поступить в Parsons, но даже тогда я настолько боялась идти на этот дизайн, что я поступала на фэшн-маркетинг. И на фэшн-маркетинг там другая, там мне нужно показывать портфолио своих работ, которого у меня, конечно же, не было. Там нужно было придумать какой-то проект, то есть сделать тоже презентацию, но маркетинговую презентацию. И, собственно, я поступила на маркетинг, когда я увидела на первой неделе обучения, как ребята с факультета дизайна покупают себе ткани, им выдают эти манекены и все эти приспособления, меня такие завидки взяли, что я пошла и практически задним числом перевелась с факультета на факультет, что вообще делать нельзя. Но каким-то образом никто не обратил внимания, и вот так сложилось. То есть я не поступала с портфолио вот с этим творческим отбором, который обычно нужно пройти. Но там есть, я знаю, что там есть летние курсы всякие, например, для учеников, для школьников, и тех, кто хочет поступить, где им помогают подготовить портфолио.
На ваш взгляд, насколько важен статус учебного заведения? Вот Parsons — это топовый университет. Имеет ли значение, имеет ли смысл стремиться поступить только в топовый университет в США?
Смотря для чего, честно. Конечно, людей впечатляют названия до сих пор, да, какие-то модные, известные, но опять же, как я говорила, когда мы обсуждали этот ток, у меня очень многие приятели, мои друзья ходили учиться в Гарвард Экстеншн, есть такая школа, Гарвард Экстеншн. Это при Гарварде платные курсы повышения квалификации. Туда может прийти любой, абсолютно любой. Ты можешь прийти человек, который по-английски плохо говорит, заплатить деньги и пройти курс. И по окончанию этого курса выдают диплом. Не диплом Гарварда, а диплом, что ты прошел курс. Сколько людей я знаю, кто с этими дипломами устраивались в Россию на работу, со словами, что я закончил Гарвард, вы себе представить не можете. То же самое там Оксфорд, Брукс в Лондоне, который все выдают за Оксфорд. А так, конечно, это имеет какое-то значение, но мне кажется, даже не в плане знаний, а вот в плане именно престижа. Но, на мой взгляд, главное, что я получила из своего образования за рубежом, это, опять же, даже не знание, а вот этот опыт жизни одной с людьми из разных стран, работы там. Это очень сильно раскрывает твой мозг. Я просто замечаю, да, по сравнению с моими там друзьями и коллегами, которые всю жизнь прожили здесь, что я все-таки мыслю чуть-чуть по-другому, что мне, например, легче вести с иностранцами деловую переписку намного, да, потому что я, ну, не то, что у меня английский хороший, а я с ними на одном языке говорю, как объяснить, не только, что я понимаю, как они общаются, я понимаю, как они разговаривают, да, там, вот это все. То есть, конечно, ну, я считаю, что всем в идеале бы съездить поучиться за границу, даже если это на несколько месяцев, и совершенно неважно куда, потому что вот мой лучший друг, например, у него не было возможности поехать в университет, он работал в Заре, и он поехал по программе Work and Travel в Нью-Йорк на полгода в Зару, да, и это тоже ему дало, то есть вот у него тоже абсолютно не русское мышление, мы с ним, он мой коллега, мой бывший ассистент, с ним много лет проработала, и вот мне с ним было куда легче работать, потому что у него тоже совершенно по-другому мысли.
Есть ли у американской системы образования какие-то недостатки, о которых важно знать?
Недостатки есть везде. Я вообще считаю, у меня 7-летняя дочь, то есть я в образовании в последнее время погрузилась из-за этого сильно. Я, в принципе, считаю, что образование во всем мире дико устарело и не поспевает меняться за скоростями, на которых меняется весь мир. Университет, я в школе тоже училась американской последние 4 года, вот могу про школьные сказать недостатки. Университетского, честно, ну вот прям так не скажу. Есть для меня, я скорее подчеркнула главные достоинства, что там тебя не заставляют зубрить. Нам все время говорят, что 2 главные вещи – это вы должны уметь искать информацию и уметь вычленять самое важное из того, что вы нашли. И я действительно вот с каждым годом все больше понимаю, что это главные скиллы, которые у меня есть. Потому что в наши дни, ну, как бы есть интернет, есть Google, ты можешь любую информацию найти, если ты знаешь как, и как ее потом интерпретировать, и как вычленить из нее суть. И это вот сильно отличает от наших школ университетов, где все равно бу-бу-бу зубрёшь. Я помню до сих пор, как я учила в русской школе, я в спецнемецкой школе училась эти тексты наизусть про Красную площадь, экскурсии на немецком языке, как там про царь колокол. Вот это зачем я это делаю? Я приехала после там 3 или 4 лет в спецшколе немецкой, в немецкую школу, и я могла только сказать, как меня зовут. И провести экскурсию по Красной площади, идеально. Но разговаривать меня не учили. И то же самое, мне кажется, у нас большая проблема с критическим мышлением, потому что у нас учитель всегда прав, как учитель сказал, так и значит это правильно. А там вот в американской школе, в университете учителя разрешают себя челлендж, что называется, что с ними не соглашаться, доказывать свою точку зрения, спорить, там наоборот, это всячески поощрялось, по крайней мере, в моей школе, и я считаю, что это тоже очень важный навык. Юль, не слышу вообще.
Какие специальности вы бы посоветовали рассмотреть тем абитуриентам, которые сейчас задумываются поехать учиться в США именно творческим специальностям?
Ой, да тут абсолютно любые, там есть на любой вкус. Вот мы недавно говорили, например, с Катей Иноземцевой, которая главный куратор музея «Гараж», она как раз очень рекомендовала, мне сейчас вылетело из головы, какой университет, говорила, что вот если наш приятель сегодня спросил, мне ребенок хочет быть художником, серьезно, куда ехать, она сказала, что это просто лучший в мире тоже там университет именно вот для художников, который похож на Баухаус, где учат совершенно по другой системе и т.д. Дизайн, тут по моде, тут на самом деле двоякая история, смотря, что вы хотите. Если вы хотите стать великим творческим дизайнером Александром Маквином и Джоном Галлиано, я бы в Америку не ехала. Я бы ехала в Лондон, в Сент-Мартинс или London College of Fashion, я бы ехала в Антверпен, я бы ехала в Японию. В Америке модное образование, Parsons of IT, это в первую очередь про бизнес. То есть нас в первую очередь учили, как вот строить фэшн-бизнес. Да, я училась на дизайн, но там это дизайн скорее про sportswear, скорее про то, что ты пойдешь работать на кого-то, и даже если у тебя будет свой бренд, то это, вот Parsons School, да, там они выпускники университета. Там не про вот этот творческий полет мыслей, вот это все, а скорее про более приземленные вещи. То есть тут в зависимости, кто хочет. А вы меня видите, слышите? У меня все пропали.
Вы дали тем, кто хочет поступать в США.
Вы у меня пропали.
Катя, вы меня слышите?
С трудом слышу и не вижу. Вот, сейчас вижу.
Да, Катя, у меня был последний вопрос. Что бы вы посоветовали, какой один важный совет вы бы дали тем, кто планирует ехать учиться в США творческим специальностям?
Да ехать ничего не бояться, наверное, в первую очередь. Вот, знаете, какой совет? Берите из этого максимум, ходите во все музеи, которые вам доступны. Обязательно стажироваться. Это больше всего мне дал не университет, а стажировки. В американских компаниях меня там научили работать, у меня до сих пор есть какие-то связи там. Ну и, в принципе, вот впитывать по максимуму. Если вы там на ограниченное количество времени, знакомиться с максимальным количеством людей, я не знаю, ходить на всевозможные выставки, на всевозможные какие-то индустрийные мероприятия, идти бесплатно работать ассистентом, стажером, кем угодно на там недели моды, да, на какие-то там кинофестивали. Но это такой опыт, где ты больше нигде не приобретешь. И тебе говорят, вот стажер работает бесплатно. Честно, тот опыт, который я приобрела, работая стажером, он как бы на самом деле дороже, чем мой университет стоит, да, только я за него не платила. Поэтому стажироваться, не бояться. Еще такая вещь, которую меня научила Америка, никогда не стоит бояться писать никому письма или звонить. Даже если супер знаменитый человек. Он один раз не ответит, два не ответит, на третий может ответить. Вот. И это меня очень много раз выручало. И если вы там, то есть там есть даже такое понятие, как informational interviews, там, да, когда вы не на работу нанимаетесь, вы можете написать какому-нибудь редактору и сказать, здрасте, я вот такой-то, очень хочу с вами познакомиться, там, можно я вас приглашу на кофе, и вы мне расскажете о своем опыте. И опять же, один раз не ответить, второй раз не ответить, на третий ответить.
Я уверена, что ваши советы и ваш опыт будет очень полезен нашим зрителям. Спасибо, что нашли время присоединиться к нам сегодня.
Спасибо вам. Удачного вам продолжения.
Спасибо.
И удачной всем учебы.
Система высшего образования в США существенно отличается от российской. И для того, чтобы разобраться во всех ее особенностях, и особенностях, связанных с поступлением, типами программ, мы пригласили к нам в эфир директора информационного центра Education USA в России Андрея Косилова. Здравствуйте, Андрей. Андрей, ну я, наверное, хочу начать с самого общего вопроса. Почему, на ваш взгляд, стоит ехать в США учиться творческим специальностям?
Почему Америка? Ну, вот в добавлении к тому, что говорила Екатерина, конечно, хочется сказать, что это огромный выбор учебных заведений. Есть из чего выбрать. Это не просто дисциплины, которые могут у нас быть на слуху, но и очень часто, пожалуй, какие-то редкие даже направления, творческие направления. Потрясающий преподавательский состав. Америка притягивает к себе не только студентов, которые действительно талантливы, но и, безусловно, преподавателей, в первую очередь практиков, преподавателей, которые готовы быть менторами студентов, которые готовы помочь студентам реализовать свои самые смелые задумки и мечты. Конечно, это же практика. Поэтому я считаю, что это также очень сильный аргумент в сторону Америки. Вот то, о чем уже говорила Екатерина, это возможность с самых первых дней обучения формировать свое профессиональное сообщество. Те люди, которые в дальнейшем помогут вам, возможно, приобрести нужные контакты в любой творческой сфере. Таким образом, вы сможете пойти к той точке, которую вы для себя наметили. Это и гибкость учебного процесса. То есть можно поменять мейджор, что очень также немаловажно. Ну и, конечно же, это мир в миниатюре. Вы знаете, сколько я встречаю российских студентов, которые закончили учебное заведение в Соединенных Штатах. Почти каждый из них на вопрос, а что тебе дало обучение в США, говорит о том, что Америка мне позволила посмотреть, насколько богат мир, насколько есть огромный вариант возможностей для решения той или иной задачи, потому что это разные культуры, это выходцы из абсолютно разных стран. И вот когда ты себя видишь в этом многообразии, то, конечно же, ты получаешь совершенно другую перспективу.
К вопросу выбора университета. Вот Катя в нашем разговоре сказала, что не так важно, наверное, стремиться в самые топовые университеты, более важен опыт. Как вы к этому относитесь?
Ну, у меня для вас есть плохая новость и есть хорошая новость, с которой начать.
Как обычно, с плохой.
С плохой, да, я тоже так думаю. На самом деле плохая новость состоит в том, что, ну как плохая, то есть умеренно плохая. в Соединенных Штатах нету официального рейтинга учебных заведений. Да, мы все с вами знаем огромное количество различных коммерческих рейтингов. Стоит ли учитывать рейтинги? Ну, может быть, частично, да, но не стоит наверняка принимать решение о поступлении в конкретное учебное заведение, исходя лишь только из рейтинга. И вот здесь, мне кажется, что позиция, которую занимает Education USA как официальный источник информации, а мы представляем 4500 аккредитованных учебных заведений, наша позиция состоит в том, чтобы студент в процессе поиска учебного заведения подходил с точки зрения best fit. То есть, что тебе, именно тебе необходимо и близко. Потому что вузов большое количество. Программ огромное количество. И вот этот best fit, то есть ты должен найти то учебное заведение, которое поможет тебе полностью раскрыть себя с помощью и профессорско-преподавательского состава, и лаборатории. А лаборатории для творческих людей это могут быть и театральные подмостки, и компьютерные залы, и студии. Вот что тебе именно даст конкретное учебное заведение. Поэтому на вопрос, наверное, как правильно подходить к выбору учебного заведения, я бы ответил так, что первое, надо набраться терпения. Это очень важно, потому что, вы знаете, студенты обычно хотят все и сразу. Но вот для Америки нужно терпение. Бывает, что именно поиск того списка учебных заведений, которые интересны и важны именно для тебя, может занять вплоть до 1 года. Представляете, год. И вот в течение этого года необходимо посещать сайты учебных заведений. Если есть возможность, вот, ну, например, после снятия ограничений полететь в какие-то учебные заведения, которые вы выбрали, посетить их кампусы, это тоже все в плюс. Потому что тогда вы почувствуете, ваш ли это дух, подходит ли именно вам учебное заведение, подходите ли вы этому учебному заведению. Ну и, наверное, основные моменты, на которые стоит обращать внимание. Конечно же, это на те дисциплины, которые предлагаются. Потому что студент сам себя формирует, он выбирает те учебные дисциплины, которые ему интересны. Кураторы, профессора помогают это расписание сформировать, но гибкость американской системы образования, она, конечно, поражает. Ты начинаешь себя сам формировать. Второе, конечно же, очень важно вот эта стыковка теория-практика. Как тоже отметила Катерина, практика – это основное, что типично для американского образования. Поэтому важно обратить внимание, что предлагается студентам. Галереи ли, театры ли, студии ли, для того, чтобы студенты могли полностью раскрыть свой потенциал. Это также и преподавательский состав, потому что, как я уже сказал, Америка притягивает очень известных преподавателей со всего мира. Поэтому надо для каждого учебного заведения, которое вы для себя выбрали, проанализировать, а кто у вас будет преподавателем. Потому что именно преподаватель есть залог вашего успеха. Не столько название учебного заведения, сколько сам непосредственно преподаватель. Изучая тех преподавателей, которые есть в конкретном учебном заведении, стоит также обратить внимание на их награды, публикации, на их карьеру. Потому что для вас, возможно, эти люди будут не только менторами, но и вашими role models, то есть людьми, на которых вы можете ориентироваться. Еще очень немаловажный момент – это все-таки, надо понимать, что Соединенные Штаты – огромная страна, и часть вузов может находиться в больших городах. Часть вузов может находиться rural areas, да, то есть маленькие городки, удаленные вообще от цивилизации. Это тоже важно, потому что далеко не для всех может быть, например, приемлемо, если ты вырос в большом городе и ты решил учиться в малюсеньком городке, там, где только студенты, то для некоторых это может быть, например, не сразу приемлемо. То есть вот на расположение учебного заведения также стоит обратить внимание. Ну и последнее, при выборе учебного заведения, конечно, это выпускники вуза. Они гордость вуза, они как бы те, на кого можно равняться. То есть если вам интересно, чтобы выпускником вашего вуза был, например, Робби Уильямс, то обратите внимание, да, на тех, кто известные выпускники конкретных учебных заведений.
А какие штаты наиболее популярны среди россиян? Насколько я знаю, есть топ-список, куда все хотят поехать.
Тоже, вы знаете, интересный вопрос. И сразу хочу сказать, что российские студенты учатся во всех 50 штатах Соединенных Штатов. Ну, можно отметить, что по концентрации, конечно, наиболее, так скажем, большая плотность наших российских студентов – это восточное побережье. Тянет, манит наших студентов в большие города восточного побережья. Это и штат Нью-Йорк, и сам Нью-Йорк. Здесь же можно упомянуть и Флориду, можно сказать о Калифорнии. И, как ни странно, вот технические специальности, да, то есть сегодня мы с вами говорим о творческом образовании, например, Техас. Поэтому, ну, я думаю, что это интересно понять, куда, как правило, едут российские абитуриенты. Но, с другой стороны, помните, что география Америки огромная, и, как я уже сказал, огромный выбор учебных заведений, и те вузы, которые вам действительно подойдут, вот best fit, вы их можете найти в тех штатах, возможно, о которых вы даже не задумывались еще.
Вопрос, который, я думаю, беспокоит очень многих. Сколько стоит обучение в США и как сделать его дешевле?
Вы знаете, я когда презентую высшее образование в Соединенных Штатах для тех, кому интересно обучение за рубежом, то вот эта тема у меня всегда называется «о грустном». Почему о грустном? Конечно, потому что, ну, дорого. И так скажем, что чем в зависимости от географического расположения стоимость образования также может очень сильно разниться. То есть, опять-таки, возвращаясь к восточному побережью, Флориде, Калифорнии, возможно, это будут самые дорогие штаты, но и уровень жизни там выше, и поэтому, возможно, это будет самое более дорогое образование. География Соединенных Штатов большая, поэтому в каких штатах стоит учиться дешевле, я бы порекомендовал обращаться всегда за информацией непосредственно к учебным заведениям. Они всегда публикуют открыто информацию, сколько стоит tuition и сколько составляют другие возможные расходы. Что важно? Важно, чтобы в самом начале процесса поступления вопрос финансирования вы рассмотрели максимально прицельно. Почему? Потому что cost of tuition – это не единственное, что будет составлять ваше образование. Это вообще уже вкладывание, вклад в образование начинается с момента сдачи тестов. То есть, когда вы только начинаете процесс поступления, необходимо помнить, что это также стоит определенных сумм денег. Страховка, литература. Необходимо все-таки подумать и о карманных расходах. И вот это все вместе, оно будет составлять общие вложения, которые необходимы. Говоря о цифрах, ну, я бы так сказал, что цифры будут разниться, скорее всего, где-то в пределах от 20 тысяч долларов ежегодно до 40-60 и выше, в зависимости от школы и в зависимости от штата. Ну вот я знаю, сегодня у нас с вами в гостях будут представители учебных заведений, они более подробно расскажут о своих конкретных примерах, и это, я думаю, будет самая полезная информация уже от вузов.
Андрей, спасибо большое. Может быть, последний вопрос. А есть ли какие-то государственные стипендии, доступные россиянам, которые распространяются на творческие программы?
Интересный вопрос. Вы знаете, ну вот что касается стипендий, то я бы здесь не стал выделять конкретно россиян. В принципе, все вузы очень прозрачны с точки зрения предоставления финансовой помощи. И эта прозрачность заключается в том, что существует несколько видов стипендий, которые в принципе доступны для международных студентов. Самое, наверное, пожалуй, основной вид стипендии – это merit-based scholarship. И merit-based scholarship – это как раз тот вид стипендии или финансового покрытия, который, если вы доказали учебному заведению, что вы именно тот человек, о котором они мечтают, это холистический подход, в первую очередь, который используется. То есть, когда вас оценивают не только по результатам тестов или портфолио, но и по тому, как вы о себе рассказали, то вероятность получения вот подобного вида стипендии, она всегда возрастает. Так что самое главное, что бы мне хотелось сказать, что российские студенты получают стипендии вплоть до 100% покрытия. За это надо бороться. Поверьте, что это это серьезно. И то, как вы произведете впечатление на учебное заведение, будет в конечном итоге влиять на тот процент стипендий или финансового покрытия, который вам смогут предоставить.
Андрей, спасибо большое. Мы еще вернемся с вами к разговору о том, как поступать в учебное заведение в США чуть позже. Сейчас мне хотелось бы подключить к нашему разговору представителей американских университетов, которые с нами сегодня. Во-первых, мне хотелось бы представить Питера Мэя, заместителя директора приемной комиссии колледжа SCAD, University for Creative Careers. Hi, Peter.
Hi.
Также с нами сегодня Джошуа Сайн, исполнительный директор группы американских университетов Shoreline. В эту группу входит университет Иллинойса в Чикаго, UIC. Hi, Joshua.
Hello, thanks for having me.
So, and I would like to start our conversation by asking you to give a brief introduction of your institution so that our audience know you better. So, Peter, could you start with SCAD, please?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me as well. So SCAD stands for Savannah College of Art and Design, and we're a major art and design university in the US. We have 4 locations, 2 in the US. We have a location in Atlanta, Georgia, as well as Savannah, Georgia. We have a small campus in Lacoste, France, as well as e-learning, which we've been doing for many years. And I'll share a little bit more information about my school later when I present.
Thank you very much. And now, Joshua, it's over to you.
Thank you so much again for having me, and such a pleasure to be with you, Peter, and SCAD, such a great institution. Joshua Сайн, I represent Shorelight, an organization that represents 22 different U.S. institutions, and today I'm really excited to focus on the University of Illinois at Chicago, located in metropolitan Chicago, a wonderful cosmopolitan city. We have a focus and commitment to students of all interests, creative minds, as well as those who may be more focused on other areas. But as we're focusing on creative minds today, you know, our 3 goals are preparing students for the future career, so connecting them with real world experience, connecting them to a wonderful city like Chicago that's a thriving metropolitan community with companies from all over the world. And then we're a tier 1 research institution where we focus on helping to develop young minds and connect them with what the world needs and what industry is asking for.
Thank you so much for these introductions. And well, my first question will stem from what you said about your institutions. SCAD is one of the best known American art schools, while UIC is a general university with really great top ranking programs in design and architecture. So what is the difference between studying at an art school and studying at a university? Because I bet there should be some differences that are important. Peter, could you talk about art schools, please?
Yeah, so if you're out there listening and you're like me, then you may be at one point were sitting in your high school feeling a little bit different from everybody. If you're a creative person, like I was, and when you walk into an art school, there's really nothing else like it in terms of the impact that it can have on your work and the push that it can give you in the right direction in terms of really exploring your creativity and launching you into a career that you're passionate about. When you're out there in the real world, in high school or in your college as a creative type, if it's more of a general university or a general high school, often you feel a little bit different than others. When you walk into an art school, you're surrounded by other people that are also driven by a passion to create, to explore their creativity, and you're constantly, it becomes a melting pot, and you're constantly inspiring each other, pushing each other to go further, borrowing ideas from each other, which is actually encouraged in art school. So it's a really unique environment, and it feels much different, I think, from a student experience than it does when you're studying at a general university or a liberal arts school and just majoring in art. But of course, there's some advantages to that too, which I'm sure Josh can talk about a little bit.
Thank you. Josh, and what about general universities?
Yeah, thanks, Peter. The university experience, as Peter mentioned, is sort of second to none as well. If that's your aim and focus, is to come to an institution like the University of Illinois, Chicago, where we have 29,000 students, undergraduate and postgraduate, and endless resources available to students through a wide variety of connections to industry and to you know, all things learning. The resources that are provided at an institution like the University of Illinois Chicago are really second to none. And what it provides is the chance to connect with folks from other disciplines as well. It's a melting pot of sorts also, in the sense that you know, you get the chance to take in the expertise in other areas through your, you know, general education study, where you get to define what that future looks like for you through a wide range of courses, as well as a wide range of connected tissues to other areas. And what's exciting about being at an institution with 29,000 students is the chance to take in that traditional American university experience, whether that's collegiate athletics or being a part of a major alumni base. So, you know, both, I think the design school feel as well as the university feel meet student needs. And as Andre was saying, I don't speak Russian, but I did hear him say fit a couple times. It is really all about the institution that fits you based off of, you know, your direction and preference.
Another interesting question to discuss would be the liberal arts approach, which is so common in the United States, but it's absolutely not typical for Russian higher education system. So could you please explain what kind of approach this is and how it is realized at your institutions? Joshua, could you talk about that, please?
Yeah, so I think the liberal arts component or general education component at universities and at American universities are really what make us the best institutions in the world. Because what we bring is minds that maybe have a focus and a desire to study a certain direction. And we provide an opportunity to reach outside of that narrow focus and touch into other areas of life. What the liberal arts experience is all about broadening a student's learning, their curiosity. And so basically what it means is that you will take courses outside of your direct area of study. In the US, that's typically called a major at an institution like UIC. That could be anything from architecture to you know, video game design, to whatever your creative mind hopes to pursue. Within that major and your degree at the university, you'll also have the chance to expand your learning potential and take in courses outside of that learning discipline. So you're getting a broad experience and a broad understanding, so that you're not just an amazing artist, but you also have experience outside of that that helps to shape your soft skills. And so many people think so much about the technical skill set that you need to graduate. And what liberal arts has really brought in is this concept of soft skills, skills that employers want, like critical.
Joshua's screen seems to be frozen. So, Peter, do you think you could continue talking about liberal arts? Yeah.
Yeah, and I was going to say that, you know, the same things that Joshua was talking about, which are true at his university, are also true at SCAD in terms of having the opportunity to study more than one subject. You can even add it to your degree by majoring and minoring and still complete your studies in the same amount of time. So you have the chance to not only get the major experience, but also a specialization in a second field. At SCAD, for example, you'll hear me talk in the presentation about how we have more than 40 majors, but we have 75 minors. So there's really an opportunity to explore other disciplines. Even if you don't minor in something, you can take electives, which are free credits, in subjects that are completely unrelated to your major. You could, for example, major in photography and take an elective in fashion or in interior design, just because it's interesting for you. And then there's one other aspect that I would like to just add to that, and I think it's true probably for other schools as well. When you come to university in the US, like SCAD, even though you may be applying with a particular major in mind, you're actually officially starting as an undecided student. And that's important because it allows you to later formally declare your major and really start to find a path that makes sense to you as you learn about the programs that are on offer. And in a field like art and design, that's really important because it's constantly changing with technology and with the needs of the industry. And so we're adding new programs all the time. So we may have a program that may eventually become your major, but it may be something that you didn't even know about or know that existed at the time that you're starting your application. So why not leave it open to be able to find out more about that new technology and that new program after you start, before you're formally committed towards going in that direction. So that's one of the real advantages, I think, of the system that we offer.
And if I can just add one more thing to that, I'm sorry for phasing out there, but we help to develop really well-rounded students. And so what industry and what employers are looking for right now in anywhere across the world is people who have a skill set that's transferable, that doesn't just land in a technical area, but really allows students to broaden their experience. And that's really what the liberal arts education is all about, is making sure that students leave with a better understanding of society, understanding that they can be a positive contributor to the world and make an impact. And it allows students to broaden their experiences and open their mind to so much more.
And how is the liberal arts approach realized in postgraduate programs? That's the question we've already got from our audience.
I can talk from SCAD's perspective. So when you do go to a postgraduate, or what we call a graduate program, after you've completed your bachelor's degree, it is much more specialized. So even though our graduate programs still contain electives, so you do still have the opportunity to expand and to learn more about other fields, you're really spending the majority of your time really specializing in your field. You're working on becoming what we call a deepener rather than a widener. So the advantage of that first 4 years is you have a chance to really go wide and to be a unicorn and learn about a lot of different kinds of things. And but when you do start a graduate program, you're going to be much more focused, and so that you can really become an expert in the field of study that you're majoring in. But again, like I said, there's still a few electives, free credits built in, so that you can study other subjects.
Yeah, and I would agree with the comments there. It really is, when you look at graduate degrees, specializing and maybe deepening your understanding of a particular subject or area, becoming an expert in that area. Many people go to graduate school for many different reasons, but one of the main reasons is for career advancement or a deeper understanding of that particular discipline. And so it really allows you to zone in. But even within master's degrees and graduate schools, there's still the ability for creatives to experiment and to dive in. One of the schools we represent at the University of Utah has a program called the Masters of Business Creation. And this allows founders to come in from any discipline and start their own business. And so while they're specializing and learning on the focus of starting a business, they still have that creative element of understanding what the industry is asking for.
Thank you. Let's imagine that there is a student who is trying to choose a program of study in creative industries. So what characteristics should this person be paying attention to, in your opinion, when choosing a program? Joshua?
Yeah, I think ultimately students who have a creative mindset, their focus really should be on their passions. Those passions that drive them and commit them. I think it's also about skill acquisition when you're in college and acquiring those skills. And so areas where you may have pre-existing skills, but as Peter mentioned, you can also develop on campus.
Sorry, Joshua, we seem to be experiencing some technical difficulties. Okay, it seems it's Peter, yeah?
Yeah, my apologies.
Josh, you want to try again? You seem to be back on, or shall I take over?
So Joshua,
no, Peter, you go ahead.
Okay. So, thank you for the question. It's a great question. I mean, what I agree that it is about the skills. It's about what you're passionate about. But I want to add an element of practicality to this and pragmatism. When you come to the US to study, it's an investment, and it's a big investment. And what the system that we have here is that it's designed where this investment is something that you hope and you're kind of betting on will pay off in the long run. So I would actually kind of backtrack and say, look ahead. What do you want to be doing after you graduate? You don't have to know specifically exactly what job you want or even what you want to study when you're in college, but look at the kind of careers that excite you, that you could imagine doing. What would make you just wake up every day and just want to go to work because you feel so passionate about it? And then what do they look for? And to be honest, that once you start backtracking, I think what you find is the most important qualities to look for in a university are, how are they going to help you launch your career? What's their employment rate? What kind of support do they give for helping you? What kind of network do they provide? And what kind of skills do they offer? Because it's not just having a great experience in college, it's also, getting a return on your investment, because it's quite a lot to invest in terms of time as well as money.
Yeah, and I would totally agree with Peter on that, and was hoping to get there, but as you know, technology is not my friend right now. But the connection to industry that institutions have is absolutely critical. So representing top 100 universities like we do at Shorelight, we have the ability to understand what industry is looking for, and ensuring that connective tissue runs through from your first year on campus to your fourth year as you're looking for career placement, and ensuring that the career services programming that are available help to connect those dots in that connective tissue, ensuring that there are resources on campus and that there's a history of success. As you select that institution, it's really important, as Peter said, to look at graduation rates, to look at 5-year success rates, to look at placement rates after graduation, average salaries, and those things need to be factored in as you and your parents are making the decision to invest X amount of dollars in your future. So tying all that in with your passions and your interests and ensuring that there's a practical direction to it, I think is absolutely critical.
Many parents fear that after graduation, their child will end up as a starving artist, because there is this stereotype of creative industries. So what is the market situation with creative industries now? Can it make you a lot of money, really? Peter, I know that you know a lot about that.
Yeah, and I'll go into some details during my presentation about about SCAD and how we help you to not become a starving artist. But let me just say that this is something that's been changing a lot in the last 10 years. Industry is changing. I read an article recently, I think it was even in Forbes, that talked about how companies that invest in creative staff that work for them are actually more profitable. And you can see this across the board with the products that you use and interact with. It's not enough anymore just to have a product or a service that just works. It has to have design consideration. the ones with that are better designed are the ones that are more successful in the marketplace. And I'll have some specific examples about that later. I just want to say that it's a myth that I think is going away, and it's going away right before our eyes, so that there's actually a lot more opportunity if you're a creative person, if you have the skills and the training that you need, if you have that network that's just so valuable. I think there's going to be actually more opportunity for you than there may be for someone who follows just the traditional, business major program, in my opinion. And I'll share more in my presentation.
Yeah, and I think the idea that creative means you don't have a technical skill is also something that is quickly growing out of fashion, in the sense that there are many creatives in every area and industry and discipline that have utilized whatever the foundational major might be as a sort of launch pad into really exciting and successful careers. And I know we'll have a chance to talk about those specificities as well at the end of this conversation. But creative is what industry is driven off of right now. Evolving business marketplaces, they need minds that think outside the box, who take a different approach to learning and solving problems. The idea that students who come from creative backgrounds won't have a skill set that's employable and desired is just, it's out of fashion, to be perfectly honest. And as we evolve some of these disciplines that are in sort of the creative area, they're very technical in aspects as well, whether that's design. There's a huge technical approach to design in all areas, whether that's graphic design or whatever that area or industry might be. At UIC, we have a fantastic architecture program where our architects are out building some of the world's finest buildings. If you've been to Dubai, the Burj Khalifa was actually built by a UIC and designed by a UIC grad. So, those creative minds and those creative skill sets are on the up and up. So there'll be no starving artists coming from these programs.
And how do institutions help their students to improve their chances of being employed after graduation? Peter?
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, sure. I mean, there's so many ways that we do at SCAD. I mean, we have our traditional career and alumni department that helps to connect you with companies, but it goes way beyond that. I mean, first of all, we're bringing companies to campus every week to meet with students, to do presentations, to interview students for internships and job opportunities. We have the traditional, resources like an internal job bulletin where companies can post jobs where they're trying to recruit SCAD students, as well as career fairs. But beyond that, I mean, and beyond traditional internships where students can go out and do, get some real world work experience before they graduate, we have this great program called SCAD Pro, where a company actually comes to us and works with a class of students on a specific project for that company. So just an example, a few years ago, Google came to us and really was looking for a redesign for Google Maps. What can we do with this, this app? I mean, so many people use it every day for navigation, but what other potential resources could it provide? So they worked with a group of students that were studying different disciplines, including user experience design, to come up with some concepts. Those students at the end of that class, they presented their ideas to a room full of executives from the design department at Google. So imagine if you were a student in that class, you're getting class credit for it, which is great. You're working your way towards graduation. But more than that, you've had this real world experience where you have a chance to come up with an idea, pitch the idea, get the feedback and the criticism from the company all before you graduate. That's just one of many, many hundreds of examples of SCAD Pro collaborations. But there's so many other ways that we help our students to launch into these careers, to the point where we have actually a 99% employment rate, which again, I'll talk a little bit about more during my presentation.
Yeah, and I think just to piggyback on that, it's this idea of practicality within the classroom as well. You know, no longer are our classes just focused on theory and you know, research that's not connected to return on investment. All of our coursework is focused on general education components. First, you're developing the skills that you're going to need to transition successfully into a career. Ultimately, the classroom practicality comes from small classes where students can ask questions. The US education system is different in the sense that faculty challenge you. They want you to challenge them. They want to have to answer your questions, and you're able to dig in and take a side and research that side and provide that in a way that you're going to need to do in a boardroom, you know, 10 years down the road or 5 years down the road, where you're doing your own work on a daily basis and bringing that to a broader audience. And, you know, connection to industry is what we do at UIC. It's all about that connection to Chicago and having really large multinational corporations connected with our schools of design, whether that's in architecture or whatever it may be. And as you mentioned, I work with Shorelight as well, and many of our institutions like the University of Utah has a top 10 entrepreneurship program that's focused on a evolution of innovation through a project called Lasan Studios, where students can start their own company and research from day one, receive funding from the university. And that's one of the big benefits of coming to these large institutions is the connection with that industry and the resources that are available to help students launch that future career path that is connected to finding their place in the boardroom in a couple of years down the road.
Peter, Joshua, thank you very much for this informative discussion. At this point, we'll switch to talking about each particular institution. So thank you very much for your time, and we'll be back to discussion again. Сейчас мы поговорим о каждом институте отдельно, и каждый из университетов представит свои программы, особенности поступления. Напомню, что вы можете оставлять свои вопросы в комментариях, мы обязательно зададим их представителям университетов. Мы начнем со SCAD. Питер расскажет о программах университета, но прежде чем перейти к его презентации, мы бы хотели показать вам видео из университета.
I'm driven to create.
To be expressive.
To collaborate with only the best and across disciplines.
If you have an outlet like the arts where you can be in these other worlds and imagine anything, growing up in the arts, I've seen it change people's lives.
There are things happening in our classrooms where students are actually reimagining their own education in the way that we communicate with each other.
What is that next step for them? How are they going to make those contacts with their future employers?
During my time at SCAD, what was so magical was that it was this hot pot of creative people from different types of majors that could influence each other.
I would say my two greatest lessons that I learned from SCAD were learning the structure of the industry and the strong work ethic, but I think you really hone those skills at SCAD.
I am the creative director of Christopher John Rogers. Growing up, I always knew that fashion was my passion. Ew, gross. Okay, wait.
I absolutely love SCAD.
I love SCAD too. I love it more than John Krasinski.
Hey, bees.
Hey, SCAD.
Hello, SCAD.
Extremely bright, smart people who love creativity, fashion, design, art, film, telling their version of their own story.
I am an artist.
I am a performer.
I'm an entrepreneur.
Storyteller. Thanks to SCAD, my future as a creative professional is real. It's happening.
You are the next incarnation of this beautiful planet that needs design, that needs beauty, that needs your mind and your spirit and your energy, your power, your unique voice.
Because you have something unique to say.
This is SCAD.
Anyone who asks me about colleges in US, all I say is SCAD. Don't even think of anything else.
So again, to introduce myself, my name is Peter May, and I'm the Associate Director of Admissions for SCAD. I'm also the main person for contact for anyone who inquires about SCAD from Russia. So I'm really happy to meet all of you, and I'll be sure to share my contact information at the end of the presentation. So SCAD was founded in 1978, and since it was founded, we've grown, and we actually have 4 locations now: Atlanta, Georgia, Lacoste, France, Savannah, Georgia, as well as our e-learning location, which I mentioned has been going on. We've been doing e-learning since many years before the pandemic. We've grown a lot. In the last 42 years, we now have approximately 15,000 students from all 50 states and more than 100 countries. About 25% of our students are actually international students coming in from outside of the US. And we have more than 40 majors as well as 75 minors. We have more art and design majors than really any other art and design university in the United States. So there's quite a lot of programs to choose from. And the students that go through these programs get launched into creative careers. We're really proud to say that 99% of our students who graduated in spring of 2019, within 10 months were working or had gone on to higher study or both. And of those, 91% were actually working in their field of study. So they were actually pursuing a creative career themselves. So let me tell you a little bit more about the university. So I talked a little bit about how when you come into SCAD, you're actually starting as officially an undeclared major. And there's an advantage to that because rather than knowing what you want to be when you grow up, you get to come in and start your college education with an open mind. During your first year at SCAD, or much of your first year, you'll take foundation classes which are required for any major that you end up declaring formally. So things that are important, like that will provide a foundation for your creative work later on. Things like drawing, color theory, composition classes, and so on. We have very small class sizes at SCAD and a very professional faculty. So you have the advantage of having a lot of one-on-one interaction with your classmates, as well as with your professors who are all working professionals. So that's from the very beginning, you're really starting to create your network that becomes so important later on. Now, I mentioned that number 99%, and it's something we're really proud of, and it's not by accident. And that wasn't the first year that we got to that number. We've been way up there for many years in a row. And the reason is because we're kind of obsessed with making sure that you not only have this wonderful experience in college, but we launch you into a creative field that you're passionate about. So how do we do that? We have the career advisors, of course, who are in charge of helping to counsel you with your, for example, with your resume or doing mock interviews. They're also bringing employers onto campus constantly to interview students who maybe for internship opportunities and job opportunities. We have our traditional career fairs. And beyond that, we have internship opportunities and the SCAD Pro experience, which are industry collaborations. I mentioned earlier Google, that's just one of hundreds of SCAD Pro collaborations. A lot of them have actually led to students getting offered jobs, sometimes on the spot. A company may come in, work with a class of students on a project for that company and be so impressed that not only do they adapt the project that they were presented to by one of the SCAD students, but they may actually offer them a position. which is really cool. So there's definitely a lot of resources to help make sure that you can become part of that 99% as well. Now I'm going to go back to my presentation because I mentioned those majors. But one thing that you might not realize is that even though we're an art and design school, we do have STEM. STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math. And at SCAD, we have 18 STEM majors. Now, the reason why we're able to get this designation for these particular programs is because the amount of technology that's built into them. And there's some really distinct advantages of graduating from SCAD with one of these majors. So every student that graduates from SCAD is eligible to stay and work in the US. I think Andre was talking about OPT. This is a work authorization for students that come on a student visa, which allows you to stay and work for 1 year in your field of study. If you happen to be studying one of these STEM majors, you can actually extend that by an additional 2 years. So you have the opportunity to work for up to 3 years after you graduate. So there's definitely an advantage if you happen to be interested in one of these technological fields. Now, I'm going to show you a few companies here which will be familiar to you. I don't want you to think these are the only companies where SCAD students and alumni work, but these are some of the companies where our students have gone on to work. And the reason I share these is because of what I was talking about earlier. Companies have started to realize that design is essential for their profits. And these companies in particular have recognized it's not good enough for Apple to just make a computer or a phone that works. It has to be designed well. And the ones that are designed well are ones that sell better and are more successful. Now, a few years ago, so we talked about whether or not, this myth of being a starving artist is still true. And I can just tell you that it's just not true. And those companies that I listed there are just a small segment of examples of companies that have figured it out. Now, imagine you're working at one of those companies and your job is to hire human resources, to hire someone to come in and work for you. Think of all the numbers of the MBAs, the Master of Business Administration applicants that they may get when a job is open, or engineers and coders that they may get when a job is open. And then think of the number of people who have creativity as part of their skill set. The creative people are actually more valuable, partly because there's fewer of them. And yet the research has been, from that article that I've read, that companies have realized that the bottom line is actually affected by those creative people. So another great article that I read that I wanted to mention was in the Harvard Business Review, and I hope you can look it up. It's called "The MFA is the New MBA." So the Master of Business Administration is the traditional business postgraduate program that people do when they're really interested in business. And the argument that was made in this article in the Harvard Business Review was actually that the Master of Fine Art, the specialization in a creative field, is actually more valuable at this point in the marketplace. So those are just a few examples. I can go on and on with examples of students that I've personally worked with and the amazing places that they've worked at. But I just wanted to share that. So I do hope you have a chance to connect with me later on. Now, I want to just put up my slideshow one more time here, just to share some information so that you can follow up later. First of all, I encourage you to go to our website. On our website, you're going to find a lot of information about our programs. You'll also see examples of student work, so you can see the kind of work that students are making in each one of these programs. You'll also find a contact form that's on that page, or if you'd like to take a picture of the screen now, the QR code will take you to that contact form. So if you'd like to keep in touch, please make sure to fill in that form. You'll be connected to me because I'm the representative that works with students that are interested, that come in from Russia. And so keep in touch. I'll invite you to a lot of really awesome virtual events and also can answer your questions about SCAD and our programs and the kind of creative careers that you can get. I also encourage you to visit us and to follow us on social media. We have a great Instagram account called scad.edu, which is constantly being updated, but there's a lot of other resources up there as well. And finally, I'm going to leave with making sure that you have my contact information, because if you have questions about our creative programs or just would like to connect, just send me an email and introduce yourself. So thank you so much for your time.
Peter, thank you so much. And we have a question to you from our viewers. And the question is it possible to have a look at the works of SCAD students somewhere?
Yes, absolutely. On the website. So I appreciate that. There's so much that to share because we have about 43 majors. And so there's so many kinds of examples. What I recommend that you do is go to our website, scad.edu. And when you click on programs of study, you can actually sort by the different majors. And for each section on our website, for each major, you can see an example of student work there. So I definitely encourage you to do that.
Thank you very much. Я напомню, что вы можете задавать свои вопросы Питеру в комментариях, и мы еще вернемся к ним во время Q&A сессии чуть позже. Сейчас к нам присоединился Маршал Хаузерман, директор приемной комиссии UIC. Marshall, are you with us? Hi, Marshall.
I'm here. Hi. Happy to be here.
Good to see you here. So, Маршал расскажет нам о программах UIC, но прежде чем говорить о них, мы также хотели бы показать вам видео университета. So, Marshall, could you start by telling us what sets UIC apart and what makes it a great place to study creative industries?
Thanks so much, Julia. So, again, thank you for having me. Happy to be here. My name is Marshall Hauserman, Director of Enrollment for UIC Global at the University of Illinois, Chicago. And what sets UIC apart in terms of any major program, but especially in creative education, is the opportunity to be in the heart of one of the United States' largest cities, the third largest city in the US, and in the heart of that city, combining not just your academics in the classroom, but really the city as part of your education. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now and get us started on a journey with UIC. So one of the greatest advantages that our students have is really being able to live and study in the heart of Chicago. If you can see the map on the right-hand side of your screen, you'll notice that in pretty different colors, there's a rectangle. That rectangular area is known affectionately in Chicago as the Loop. That's the Central Business District. That's where all the major skyscrapers that you see in the picture on the top of your screen, that's where most of them are located. And that's really where the heart of Chicago's industry and business lies, whether that's in architecture or the arts or in design, whatever those interests happen to be. Our students, as you can see from the map, are not that far away from downtown. They're actually about a 10-minute public transportation ride on the Chicago L train. We call it the L train because the tracks are elevated in most places. And students can get downtown in about 10 minutes. They can actually walk from campus to that part of the city in 25 to 30 minutes. And so students really have the opportunity to connect their classroom experience with the city as an experience as well. You'll note that within the loop, students can study not just the design of skyscrapers that already exist, but meet with architecture firms, design firms. If they're interested in theater or music in the performing arts. Broadway in Chicago brings many of the top musical theater attractions to Chicago every year, as well as some of our world famous theaters that we'll talk a little bit about in internship opportunities, the Steppenwolf Theater and the Goodman Theater, which are located in that central business area as well. So our students really do get to combine their campus experience with real world and practical experiences as well. I wanted to share one of the things that really set UIC apart in terms of its resources and the resources that it provides to students. You'll see on the slide, and feel free to take a picture here because I won't be able to discuss every single one of these statistics. But I think the most important piece here are the two rankings at the top 10 best value colleges and the number 3 best bang for your buck. So I want to talk about those. Top 10 best value colleges. The Wall Street Journal is one of the most prominent business newspapers in the United States. It ranks up there with Forbes in terms of prominence in that field. And the Times Higher Education is a really prominent education publication and media piece. Every year they do a survey of U.S. universities and the value and resources they bring to students. And they survey students on whether they believe that the resources provided by the university set them up for their future economic and career success. And out of all the universities in the United States, and there are well over, I think, 4,000 universities in the U.S., UIC was ranked in this ranking in the top 10, along with other major Ivy League and new Ivy, as we call them, like University of Michigan, et cetera, universities. Because one of the things that we really make sure that students are set up with is resources for future success, whether that's resources on campus or resources utilizing the city as part of that experience. And I think that's a really important as we talk about what sets UIC apart in that field. At UIC, you're going to find that there are several majors in the creative arts within the College of Architecture, Design, and the Arts. There are actually 16 colleges that make up University of Illinois Chicago. And the College of Architecture, Design, and the Arts is really the home for those interested in a creative education. Now, the majority of our students, we have a lot of students that choose architecture and design, but also theater performance, music, acting, things of that nature as well. Our students, one of the other things that really sets UIC apart as Chicago's major public research university. The students who choose one of these majors can also combine it with a major in another college. So if you're interested in also being able to run a business in the fine arts, you might want to get a second degree in business as well, in management or entrepreneurship. If you're interested in combining architecture with how you actually engineer a building, you might combine that with a civil engineering degree. So there are ways that students can really combine their creative arts education with other applications and think about how that sets them up in the future. I wanted to just take a minute to go through some highlights of the College of Architecture, Design, and the Arts and the partnerships that it has and how that sets students up for success. A couple of rankings on the left-hand side. UIC's design program is #1 in the US for affordability. That's according to the 2021 College Affordability Guide. So students and the tuition that they pay in terms of design programs, it really is an affordable program. And in architecture, you may be familiar with the QS Top Universities rankings. Of all architecture programs in the world, we're in the top 105. Some of our most famous alumni are located or in the spotlight here, but our most famous is probably Adrian Smith. Adrian Smith is the chief architect for the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, as well as the Jeddah Tower in Saudi Arabia. Among many other buildings, he was instrumental in the architectural design of the Sears Tower. It's now called the Willis Tower, but in Chicago, we call it affectionately the Sears Tower. And it is Chicago's tallest building and is sort of the cornerstone of all the skyscrapers downtown. Some of the top employers that students find employment with in the architecture, design, and arts realm include Smith & Gill, which is Adrian Smith's architecture firm, SOM, which is Skilling, Owens & Merrill, which is a really large architecture firm that does architecture projects around the globe. Studio Gang, which is another top architecture firm, Canon Design for those interested in the design arts, and the Art Institute of Chicago. Chicago has one of the world's most premier art museums in the world and one of the most famous collections of art anywhere in the globe. We compete with all the other famous art museums around the world that you can think of in terms of our collection and the different exhibits that are shown throughout the year. So our students really have the opportunity to utilize that as well as part of their creative process and think about how that ties into their academic career and their future professional career success. I'm going to stop there for now.
Martin, thank you. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Your alumni are really impressive. And you mentioned that it's really important to provide students with resources and opportunity and connections for a successful future. So could you share with us in more detail what sort of professional opportunities UIC gives to its students and maybe share some student works with us?
Absolutely. So I have selected a couple student works that I'm going to share now, as well as just some professional opportunities. So if we're looking at student work at UIC, I wanted to highlight here this student project work that was completed in a third-year undergraduate architecture studio by Victoria Hatsenko, who is an international student that joined UIC through UIC Global. The theme of the studio was, "This is not a 22-karat styrofoam casino." And the idea was how to think about fluidity and obstruction in different ways, and how to think about the design concepts of a casino in different ways within the 21st century. And so you can see here, we have concepts on the inside, in the recreational parts, in the actual floor of the casino, and then the outside structure. This was highlighted not just on the UIC webpage, but also in a student journal, a published journal of undergraduate student architecture work that is not just UIC specific. So this is one of the many sort of fun and creative ways that students get involved in creating their studio. All of our creative arts students work through studios throughout their entire time at UIC, and that culminates at the end of their projects in a portfolio that they can provide to future employers, or while they're in progress of the degree, future internship opportunities. And so you'll see here for some of our other majors on the left, interest in industrial design there, some student work, as well as for students that are interested in a BFA in art, specifically in photography. This was a very famous piece of photography for an undergraduate student work, taking a picture actually along near UIC's campus at the Blue Line station that I mentioned previously, and the traffic that comes through that part of the city as well. So those are just some of the things that are on display in terms of student work. In terms of professional opportunities, students really do have the opportunity to, get involved at an undergraduate level with many different types of professional opportunities. I highlighted here some internships, sponsored internship opportunities that UIC has with some very famous music and theater organizations in Chicago. Steppenwolf Theater Company casting internship being one of them. The Steppenwolf Theater is probably the most famous theater unique to Chicago. Many plays are designed or created here by playwrights and the cast that then go on to be performed on Broadway and end up winning Tony Awards. If anyone here is familiar with the theater, with the play August Osage County, which won a whole suite of Tony Awards several years ago, and the playwright Tracy Letts, all of that was done here in Chicago at the Steppenwolf. And then that whole group took that to Broadway in New York so that they could perform there and then be nominated for a Tony Award. So that's something that, students have the opportunity with UIC to collaborate on. For those interested in music, Grant Park Music Festival, you'll see the picture here. That's actually where the Grant Park Music Festival happens all summer long. And it's a great outdoor space in the middle of Grant Park downtown. Students can get interested in an internship with the Apprentice Chorale if they're into the music performance field. Our architecture and our design students have internship opportunities in our career services office at UIC. We have a central career services office, but we also have, every individual college has their own career services center that's designed to help students in that particular, that particular field of interest. So they really know how to tailor internship applications and resume development and portfolio development for future career success, specifically in the creative arts, not just in generally speaking in the professional world. We also really want students to get involved. One of the great things about being in Chicago, and this ties back to our earlier discussion, Julia, is that students not just having the opportunity on campus, but having that connection to Chicago, right? So you'll see here, these are just some of the both creative arts organizations, but also some general interest organizations that students can get involved in. Some of the many, over 300 organizations. And you'll see here things like the Art Therapy Club. But I wanted to point out the Industrial Designers Society of America. So that's a professional organization that has chapters in all the major cities. And at UIC, you have the opportunity to also have that as a student chapter. So that student chapter is able to meet with the professional chapter for mentorship opportunities, talks from people in the field, people that are actually working in the field right now. And so students really do get the opportunity to create those professional connections, those mentorships in a global city like Chicago while they're studying on campus at UIC. So, and I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing there. But, I think that's the really important piece, is that students really do have the opportunity to, for those professional connections. So, and also the opportunity to meet with faculty, and faculty are not just theoretical, in the field, but they're practitioners. So many of our faculty are actually professional architects by day or professional designers by day, and not just sitting there theoretically thinking about that. Great, and the last thing that I wanted to mention here is that in terms of applications, there's still plenty of time to apply. We do accept students year round, so we accept students during the summer, we accept students during the fall, and we accept students during the spring term. And so students really do have the opportunity to, apply at any time that's the best fit for them, and think about they would like to start their journey at UIC. And, you know, so in terms of other ways that students get involved, you know, I talked about some of the professional chapter opportunities, but it's also important that students get the opportunity, right, to have other interests that they have. So I mentioned in the slide the Russian speaking community, but we also have things such as, you know, professional or sports activities. So if students are interested in not just the creative arts, but also sports clubs, they can definitely join those activities. They can join other activities such as the recreational. There's access to the recreational center. There's the video game club. So our students who are interested in game design, which is one of the concentrations under the BFA in art, those students could actually join maybe the video game club, which is a competitive gaming club, and they have the opportunity really to think about and compete with other students at other campuses for prize awards. And so we've had Russian and Ukrainian students join that competitive video gaming club and have the opportunity to win a prize because they came in first place.
Marshall, thank you very much. And I was wondering if you could take us through the application deadlines and the cost of studies at UIC.
Yeah, so our important deadlines. So as I mentioned, we do have application opportunities for both summer and fall currently happening. If you're interested in starting your education during the summer, which is perhaps my favorite time of year in Chicago and at UIC, there's just so much happening in the city. Every major neighborhood has street festivals throughout the summer. The application deadline for summer is April 15th, and then students start their program in May of 2021. If you're interested in fall, there's still plenty of time to apply. We do accept applications through July 19th and confirmations through that time as well. We are seeking for students to arrive on campus in mid-August and then start their courses at the end of August. But we do have sort of a week and a half or 2 week orientation time period, just so that students can really get adjusted to living in such an amazing city like Chicago. And then I wanted to provide also the estimated expenses for any student, any undergraduate student in the College of Architecture, Design, and the Arts. This is just for your information. Estimated expenses, the tuition and fees for this year are set at $34,000, but the living expenses are an estimate and the miscellaneous expenses are an estimate. Those are what we use for the issuance of your Form I-20 to get your student visa. But of course, students may not have as high of living expense, or they may choose to live in a penthouse downtown and really raise their living expense estimate. It really just depends individually on the student and the family and what their budget is. We also have 4-year academic merit scholarships available. So it's really important that if you have a great academic background, we want you to be aware that you have the opportunity for 4-year scholarships. Generally, there is an estimated range between like $2,000 and $8,000 a year. However, it will depend on your academics and some of the other things related to your academic background in secondary school and high school.
Marshall, maybe just one quick question. Did the prices and the deadlines you showed apply to both undergraduate and postgraduate programs?
That's a great question. So those were actually the deadline. The deadline for graduate applications, so those interested in PG, is actually April 1st. So it is fast approaching for the fall. And anyone who's interested can definitely reach out to us. And for undergraduates, we do have much more time for them to be interested in enrolling and applying for fall. For estimated expenses, that was an undergraduate estimated expense. The graduate estimated expenses vary more specifically by each individual program that is offered. So it would be really specific by each individual master's degree that's offered. Where at the undergraduate level, there's one sort of estimated expense for all majors. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Сейчас мы хотели бы перейти к обсуждению условий поступления и как подготовиться к американскому университету. Я бы хотела подключить сейчас Питера к нашему разговору и Андрея. So, Peter, are you there?
Yep, okay. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, great. Andrei, great. So my initial question was to Peter and Marshall, in fact, and well, we've spoken a lot that it's important to find the perfect fit for a student. And the question is, what is your perfect fit for your institution? What kind of students are you looking for? Can you please provide a short but clear description of what is your ideal student? Peter, could we start with you, please?
Sure. Well, first of all, I just want to say that we look for students that are really passionate and creative and that are just ambitious and just want to go as far as they can with their work. We love students that are great academically, but if you struggle academically at all, we're going to put a little bit more weight on your portfolio, on any kind of professional experience that you may have, because we do want to have the most, creative people that we can. Another thing that I would just want to share is that, one thing that's happened a lot in the US over the last few years is that students have different opportunities for art education before they come to us. Unfortunately, a lot of public high schools in the US, and I've seen this in other countries too, when they're worried about their budget, one of the first programs that they often cut is art. And so we do want to welcome students that may not have had the opportunity to come to us from a great art program before. So for that reason, we really encourage everyone to apply, to try to see where it goes, because we do have an open mind, and if we're not going to hold it against you if you happen to not have had the opportunity for a great art education before you come to us. That's why you're coming to us, so that we can teach you. And then the other thing that I wanted to add is that Marshall talked about, we also do not have an application deadline. We have rolling admission. So you can apply anytime and you can essentially start anytime. We have academic terms starting 4 times a year.
Marshall, who's your ideal candidate?
So I first wanted to start by just adding to what Peter said about students who may not have an art education background in high school. Same principle applies at UIC. Most of our students do not require a portfolio for admission, for application admission. One of the things that we do is we actually, plan on assisting and training you as well. So for our architecture and design students, a portfolio is not required for the application. And so we don't want to disadvantage students who may not have had a full opportunity for that in their high school career. So, similar to SCAD. The ideal student for UIC, obviously for the creative arts, it's somebody who has a creative spirit and a creative bone in their body, obviously. They're not me, I can't draw. For example, I draw stick figures, but our students who have an artistic mind, we really will be looking for in these majors. But outside of that, what we're really looking for at UIC is for students that want to be in the middle of one of the US's largest cities, in a global city, and in an urban setting. You're not the right fit necessarily if you want a college town experience, similar to our Big Ten colleagues down in Urbana-Champaign or, Michigan State or something like that. That's much more of a college town experience. Everything in the town revolves around the university, with football games on Saturdays, basketball, March Madness, and things like that. You're not necessarily going to find that at UIC and in Chicago. But if you want to combine your academics in the classroom experience with an urban city experience that also is going to shape your future and your education, then UIC is a perfect fit because it's right in the middle of the city. You get access to a lot of those opportunities, and it's an exciting place to be for students that have that mindset. If you don't have that mindset, UIC may not be the right place for you.
Yeah. Андрей, можем мы с вами поговорить, перейдем на русский, можем ли мы с вами поговорить об общих требованиях, к чему стоит готовиться студентам, поступающим на творческие специальности, какие экзамены в любом случае потребуется сдавать?
Я очень рад, что мои коллеги и Питер, и Маршал более подробно рассказали о требованиях именно их учебных заведений. Все-таки стоит, когда вы уже определились с вузами, в которые вы хотите подавать свои документы, надо посмотреть внимательно как и на предельные сроки подачи документов, так и что именно в этот конкретный год они ожидают от своих перспективных студентов. Почему я об этом говорю? Потому что общие вступительные требования, о которых я буду говорить, они могут оказаться не совсем такими, которые вы найдете на сайте выбранных вами учебных заведений. Вот это очень важно. Выбор школ огромен. У каждой школы каждый год будет свой взгляд на тех студентов, которых они считают максимально подходящими для них. Но, опять-таки, говоря об общих требованиях вступительных, то, конечно, почему все это важно? Вуз должен сделать выбор. И этот выбор, как правило, есть холистическая оценка того, что вы им дали. Они должны понять, насколько хорошо вы впишетесь в класс. Понятно, что тесты английскому языку, это или TOEFL, или IELTS, помогут учебному заведению понять, что вы готовы общаться как с вашими профессорами, преподавателями, так и со своими peers, со своими коллегами по учебе. Безусловно, для поступающих на программу бакалавриата это будет общеобразовательный тест, как мы его называем, SAT. Опять-таки, тест, который позволит приемной комиссии понять, насколько вы подкованы в том или ином блоке этого теста. Если это творческие специальности, то будет уделяться внимание не каждому блоку теста. Если вы поступаете на магистерские или аспирантские даже программы, конечно же, это будет тест GRE. Но хочу сказать, что некоторые учебные заведения делают тесты optional, то есть, опять-таки, на усмотрение учебного заведения, да или нет, хотят ли они видеть тест. Для того, чтобы максимально дать впечатление о себе, очень важную роль играют рекомендательные письма. Безусловно, портфолио, но, опять-таки, некоторые вузы этого могут не требовать. Безусловно, это ваши академические успехи за последние 2-3 года обучения, чтобы вуз мог понять, как вы были в динамике. И, конечно, это эссе. Эссе очень важно, потому что все-таки вуз должен понять, почему вы выбираете именно его и что вы ожидаете от этого учебного заведения. Так что по общим вступительным требованиям, пожалуй, это все, что необходимо вам подготовить и собрать и дать тем учебным заведениям, которые вы выбрали.
Андрей, спасибо. Я думаю, что следующий вопрос, который пришел к нам в чат, тоже адресую вам. Если я выпустилась из школы 2 года назад, есть ли шансы поступить? У меня есть опыт работы, волонтерства и предпринимательства.
Да, конечно, есть, безусловно. И я не исключаю, что те несколько лет, которые вы провели вне уже школьных стен, они ведь позволили вам получить больше жизненный опыт. Поэтому это все то, о чем стоит рассказать учебному заведению. Вообще хочу сказать, что для американских учебных заведений, те, кто приходит к нам в информационные центры, часто спрашивают, от какого до какого возраста можно поступать в Соединенные Штаты. Если минимальный возраст может быть ограничен вузом или штатом, это может быть 17-18 лет, то предельного возраста нет. Вы можете поступать в учебное заведение в любом возрасте. И любой жизненный опыт, любая ваша практика, это все лишь только добавляет больше сильных сторон для вас. Вы становитесь, возможно, более зрелым для конкретно выбранного учебного заведения.
И еще один вопрос. Is education possible for a person with disabilities who needs a guardian? Will there be problem with the visa for the guardian, and under what conditions is education possible in such a situation? So I guess we could address this to our institutions. Peter, is it possible at SCAD?
We, of course, accommodate any student regardless of their ability. Absolutely, and we just need to know about it so that we can make sure that everything is set up correctly. In terms of the visa, I actually don't know the answer to that question. I know about how dependent visas work, but I'm not sure exactly how they apply to caretakers. I would need to do a little research on that. Maybe Andre knows the answer to that one.
Ну, я тоже хочу добавить, что я вот по визам тут не могу сказать что-то определенного, но у нас были прецеденты, когда российские студенты с disabilities поступали как раз на творческие специальности в Соединенные Штаты. Вот. А по визам, я думаю, все-таки это вопрос, который необходимо и наиболее правильно адресовать к посольству США или консульству.
Я, кстати, напомню нашей аудитории, что Education USA – это официальный источник информации об образовании в США, и вы всегда можете обратиться к Андрею и получить, насколько я понимаю, бесплатную консультацию по обучению в США. Я права, Андрей?
Да, правы, но я хочу сказать, что к нам ежегодно обращаются реально тысячи студентов, поэтому Андрей, конечно, в одиночестве вряд ли бы это сделал. У нас прекрасная российская команда, и мы сначала просим всех тех, кому интересно узнать больше о системе высшего образования в Соединенных Штатах, любой дисциплине, пройти онлайн-курс, который ответит на 85% всех вопросов по поступлению. Курс называется 120 credits. И после этого, да, мы начинаем уже помогать студентам, школьникам и профессионалам вырабатывать стратегию поступления. И да, эти услуги, они бесплатные, потому что это информация, полезный алгоритм.
Еще один вопрос от нашей аудитории. Возможно ли получить PhD Arts? Is it possible to get PhD in Arts at SCAD and UIC?
It's not. Our highest level degree is the Master of Fine Art. And I think when you start to do some research on this, you'll find that that's generally the terminal degree or the highest level degree possible in most of these fields, is the Master of Fine Art. Now, we also offer another master's that's called a Master of Art, which is, I guess, a slightly shorter postgraduate program. The Master of Fine Art is generally will take you around 2.5 to 3 years to complete. And like I said, it's generally the highest level degree that you can get in this field. I'm not aware of any PhD programs in art and design. I mean, there may be 1 or 2 exceptions, but I'm not aware of them.
Marshall, any exceptions that you know of?
So, just to add to what Peter said, he's absolutely right. In most of these fields, it is an MFA or a Master of Architecture or something of that terminal professional nature. At UIC, we do have a PhD in art history. So if students are interested in that side of things or a doctorate in theater music, they might consider moving towards that full-fledged area. But if they're looking at the art and design fields, it's really master's degree is terminal, whether that's an MFA or we have an AMDA degree, which is Master of Design. And so students generally in those fields would absolutely be terminal at the professional master's degree.
Marshall, Peter, Andrei, thank you very much for joining us today. К сожалению, время нашей Q&A сессии подходит к концу, но я напомню, все, кто не успел получить ответы, вы можете написать напрямую всем нашим участникам. У нас на сайте вы найдете контактные детали Education USA, SCAD, UIC. Пожалуйста, не стесняйтесь, пишите, все будут только рады. А сейчас я хотела бы переключиться на обещанный мастер-класс. С нами в эфире, да, с нами в эфире Джунан Ляо. Джунан, are you here? Hi.
Yes, hello Julius, how are you? I'm here.
Not bad. So how are you doing?
I'm doing great and sending love from New York City here where I'm at right now.
Джунан — заместитель директора по международному сотрудничеству AMDA. AMDA — это Американская академия музыки и драмы. Именно Джунан сможет нам прекрасно рассказать, как подготовиться к прослушиваниям. Мы бы хотели начать с короткого видео.
Hi, my name is Adrienne, and I graduated from AMDA's Musical Theater Conservatory program. We're here at the Los Angeles campus in Hollywood to show you exactly what it's like to audition for acceptance into AMDA. After registration, everyone is divided into 3 groups: dance, musical theater, and acting. Now comes the time to have fun and show off your talent to our team of friendly adjudicators.
It really wasn't as nerve-wracking as people would think. The judges are very friendly, the accompanist is also, it's a really comfortable environment.
It went well. Definitely nothing to be anxious about. Overall, very inviting and yeah, comfortable.
Hi, my name is Marina Benedict. I'm the Associate Chair of Dance at AMDA Los Angeles. And this may be your first professional audition. We know that, and it's okay. That's why you're coming to school. So don't be nervous. I know that we're on your side, and we want to see the best possible you that there is.
How would you describe the process today?
As nerve-wracking as auditioning for a school or something you're going to be spending a couple of years in your life doing, as relaxed as it could be.
Before the dancers perform their solo pieces, they come in here to warm up.
I feel good, actually. I think I rushed a little, but I feel good. I feel confident. Hopefully I'll make it.
After you're done with your audition, you get to meet one-on-one with an AMDA admissions rep who will guide you through the admissions process, and they'll make sure that you have all the information that you need. So that's it. Now you know what it takes to nail your AMDA audition. So get to work, and we'll see you at the next one.
So Junan, now it's over to you.
Great, thank you, Julius. Hello again, everybody, whoever you are watching and wherever you are. My name is Junan Liao. I'm Assistant Director of International Outreach here at AMDA, New York. And also AMDA had the campus located in the West Side and the West Coast in Los Angeles. I think today I'm not only representing my school AMDA, but also I represent another niche of this wonderful educational opportunity here offered in the United States, which is the performing arts. As you may know, apply to performing arts school in the United States can be a little slightly different from, apply to any other arts or design kind of the program, because the most important, I think, the element right now for students to consider even before you actually submit your application is to prepare for your audition. Audition is a very, very important part for us as an adjudicator and also admission personnel to see whether you have the required talent or necessary training in order to be success in the course that you are going to choose. So today, I think I'm gonna spend like less than 15 minutes to discuss a little bit about how to prepare for your upcoming audition. And this principle can also apply to other universities because I think the requirement from different institutions are slightly different, but they share the core requirements in terms of the piece selection and also how to nail your audition mentally and also physically prepared. And before that, let me just share quickly 2 slides that I'm going to cover. Okay, so the audition piece. So when we are talking about the audition, so people always ask, okay, should I go to United States or do the in-person audition? Well, in the old time, before the pandemic, our admission colleague, not only AMDA, but also some other universities, they will set up their in-person audition across the globe. For example, AMDA went to Moscow and St. Peters back in 2018 and 2019 to do the in-person audition. We met a wonderful, wonderful actor, actress, and singers from Russia. And that is a very, very traditional audition way for students can really come to the audition site to audition with us. And due to the pandemic, we couldn't travel anymore for now. Finger crossed we can go back to travel very soon. So we adapted the new way, which is a video audition and also the virtual auditions. So basically the video audition is a way that you can record your performance wherever you are. Well, literally you can just perform it in your living room or your bedroom as if this space is big enough. And also submitted the link to us for admission consideration. Or you can just schedule with this live audition, which is a virtual audition weekly. For example, here at AMDA, we have the weekly audition from Thursday to Sunday, but that is our US daytime. So if you come from different time zone, you're probably gonna accommodate this with your local time. And this is none of this, the audition way will impact the result for you to be considered as a qualified applicants. But on the other hand, we encourage you to not wait until the in-person audition become valuable again. Because as I said, at least for AMDA, we would like to see you audition through the video or through the virtual, because we want to help you to, nail your application and also secure your acceptance or admission result as soon as you can. Okay, so let's just move to another slide, which is what's the best way to or how to choose your audition material. So when we're talking about choose the material, you are gonna ask, okay, what's the requirement if I want to audition for certain major? So let's just make it very, very clear here. Different schools have a different requirements. So I will use AMDA as an example to give you the very, very hands-on experience how to choose material from the very beginning. For the acting program, and usually school require 2 contrasting monologue. Contrasting monologue means you need to choose one monologue from, for example, the classic genre, or another one from the contemporary, modern style. For example, Shakespeare will be considered as a classic, and the public, for example, the music from the rest of the show, like Frozen, the monologue from the music will be considered as a contemporary. The reason why we want to see 2 contrasting monologue, because each student will have a different feeling and the way, the technique to show the style of the monologue. So make sure they are contrasting. And also the length of each monologue shouldn't be long for like 2 minutes. Just make it short, like as short as 2 minutes or 1 minute is totally fine. And it should be in English, okay? So that is the acting major. For the musical theater, which involves the singing, we need to see 1 song from the public musical and 1 monologue. For the song, the length requirement is also 2 minutes, or you can cut it into 32 bar. So if you are the musical students, you will definitely know what I'm talking about. A 32 bar song is something like 45 minutes or even 1 minute long. You have to make sure the song, the sheet of music is cut exactly like you want to sing, and also the 1 monologue. If you are a dance student, you're definitely gonna show 1 piece of your own choreographed dance, regardless the genre. Normally, some schools require you to demonstrate your classical ballet training, but here at AMDA, we kind of like get rid of that requirement because we want to create more room for so-called movement artists who haven't had any ballet training before. So you can also audition for the dance theater program. Here, I want to go even further, like how to choose the best material. For example, the music theater, 1 song, how to choose a song, how to choose a monologue. So for the song-wise, I think the first principle rule you have to remember is try not to choose the song, the lyric that you don't understand. Well, I mean, when we're talking about understanding, it's not about, okay, I understand the words. You can understand the words, otherwise you won't be auditioning. I'm talking about the meaning behind the lyrics. What about the story that you understand? For example, some students want to sing a song that can barely understand for the lyrics and also the character in their life in this show, because they cannot relate it or find a substantial text to reflect their feeling through the song. That is not the song that we want to we want to see. This is principle one. Principle two, try to find the song, the melody, or the in your vocal range, right? So if, for example, if you are a very high belting kind of like style singer, you can go for like a Let It Go from the Frozen. But if you are like not that kind of like a belting person, try not to challenge in that, because you are doing school audition. You are not doing the voice. You're not doing the American Idol, right? So you want to make sure everything you're going to talk and going to see, you feel comfortable. And also there is also one principle, which is do not choose a song that is over popular. It's over popular. For example, like I said, the Let It Go. It's a song from the Frozen. Everybody know how to sing that song. And for you, maybe a very new generation of the artists, maybe you can, but sometimes it's too much for you to nail the song using your technique properly. So that is a have to avoid. And for the monologue choices, you definitely don't want to choose the character, which we want to say you have to choose the monologue which is age appropriate. For example, if I am a 34 years Asian man, and I'm not going to choose the character, the monologue who in that character who are in their 60 or even 70 older, because my personal life cannot relate myself to the life in that stage. Basically, all in all is like, you don't want to act or sing or dance from something that material that you don't understand. So in which leads to my next advice is, do not just perform or act or sing the material from your own writing. So that is very, very, very no do things. Because I know if you are a good writer, definitely I will encourage that, but do not perform your own piece. Try to perform the material from the public show. And because that is the way we can know how give you an adjustment. And in the end of the section, I think I want to share only one word with you. People always ask me, what are your school looking for? What kind of the style or type of the person that you are going to cast? Well, in the old time, probably on board with in this community, we used to have the typecasting, which means if you are a certain type of the person, you can only audition for a certain type of the role. But recently, the whole Broadway theater kind of like get rid of this typecasting already. Whoever you are, whatever you represent, whatever you believe you want to be or perform, that's you. So to answer that question I put earlier, what we are looking for, what our adjudicator are looking for, one word, potential. We're looking for someone who know what they are doing, what they are going to do in the school. And though we can find out whether our school can provide you this kind of like training to help you to grow and to succeed. So forget about your body shape, forget about your religion, focus on you. What do you want to be? What is your potential? And let us to know. Tell me the story by using your instrument, like your body, your voice, your acting, and then you will find the best school. I think probably right now is a time for me to stop. Is that right, Julia?
Yeah, well, thank you very much. That was really informative and really motivating. Is there any secret to dealing with one's nerves before auditions?
Can you say that question again?
Well, I think most people feel really stressed before the auditions. So is there any way to deal with that?
Okay, definitely. When the students, when they hear about the audition, the first reaction is, okay, I'm prepared enough. I'm good enough. Stop sabotage yourself when you hear about you're gonna audition. I think the advice I'm gonna give to the students is practice. Well, there's always saying practice makes perfect. That's true. That's a golden principle. Right now, especially during this, COVID-19, everybody doing the virtual audition. I highly recommend the students to do this rehearsal through this Zoom or go to the meeting, whatever your school require you to do, and practice with your family member, friends, and practice more and find the best way. And also, I usually went to a lot of the workshop. There are kind of the way to zoom in yourself in your current being. So by doing, for example, give yourself like 5 minutes or 10 minutes, doing nothing, meditate, and also feel out your 5 sensations. For example, close your eyes, feel where you are, feel the vibe, and feel even what you can smell, what you can hear, and make you exactly in that vibe, and before you actually see the words. And also my advice to is that nervous is trust yourself. We are here to accept you, not reject you. Remember this principle and you are unbeatable. Trust me. That's all I have to say to give the students to ease their stress.
Julian, thank you very much. Я напомню, что вы можете найти контакты AMDA у нас на сайте и написать, если решили поступать в этот замечательный университет. Наш эфир подошел к концу. Я надеюсь, что мы встретимся с вами на следующей неделе. Наше следующее мероприятие будет посвящено творческому образованию в Великобритании. Подписывайтесь на наш канал в YouTube, вас ждет много интересного. Спасибо.